the Philippines, we get to celebrate your genius. Anong pakiramdam? Na dito ka na sa Pilipinas, finally, dito ka nagsushow. English, kahit anong gusto mo.
Sige.
Oh. Anong pakiramdam?
Anong gusto mo?
Kahit anong gusto mo, nandito ka ngayon, we're celebrating you, mga Pinoy. Anong pakiramdam, Jeffrey? Finally.
Finally. Well, thank you for having me. I mean, this is, you know, I'm a Filipino American, right? And so I was born and raised in the States. My parents went there to look for the American dream. You know, I was successful in going into the arts, unlike them wanting me to go into the medical field.
Okay.
And we had opportunities where my career just exploded in the U.S. And for me, I got to a point in my career where, you know, I really wanted to figure out where I came from. And how can I do the things I'm doing in the U.S. and apply them here to our home country, the Philippines. And so that's why this show is called Points of Origin, me coming home.
Yes, and of course we noticed that your artwork speaks about you and the culture, Filipino-American culture.
I mean, the collection here is really a subset of my collection from the Orlando Museum of Art. I was one of the first, I'm not sure, I think I am the first Filipino to have a solo exhibit in a U.S. museum. And so it was an opportunity to talk about my life story as it relates to my issues with heart disease, immigration, this idea of urban design and planning and how I do public art, because that's what I'm known for, is large-scale public art. And then talk about, you know, how that we can study and understand cultures and create forms and objects that best represent them in terms of creating identifiable public art pieces that help identify cities. So when I see things, say like Statue of Liberty, the Arc de Triomphe, the being the Jesus Redeemer, I don't have to tell you where it is. And so there's been a niche or sort of a void of creating these icons in the last centuries. You know, the Eiffel Tower was essentially created for the World Fair. The Statue of Liberty was a gift. And I really wanted to figure out how to put the Philippines on the map by creating these giant icons here in the Philippines, and then having an exhibit here that talks about that process of how I did that. And so it was interesting because I actually wanted to call this exhibit extra large small. We actually had a hard time. Actually, you know, this is really more of a preview. The museum isn't fully open till March. And some of the pieces we couldn't even get up because they couldn't fit through the door. So there's still other works that haven't been up here, but the preview has ideas or expressions that really talk about my journey. You know.
What was your journey like? When did you say na tingin mo napansin ka na muna doon sa Amerikano? Tas it opened doors for you sa mga pinakamalalaking exhibit to really showcase your works.
So I mean, my parents essentially had the opportunity and found that American dream and was able then to provide me with a proper education. I took that education then and actually got my degree in urban design and planning. I only started doing art in the last 10 years.
Wow, okay.
And how that happened was at the age of 35, I had a heart attack, triple bypass surgery, and I have genetic heart disease. And so I cashed out my savings. I didn't really want to go through the process of going through the art fairs and then the galleries and sort of going through that rise. There was an opportunity to do design competitions. And so my first year, I was a finalist at 12 and I won 8 in my first year.
Wow. Saan to?
San Antonio, LA, New York, a lot of Dubai, a lot of different cities where they were issuing art competitions. And these art competitions weren't based on where you exhibited for, your resume, who you know, who were based on the idea. So you would submit blind ideas, and I was chosen.
And I know before our Filipino artists, even the global icons, have your work. Kailan sila lumapit sa'yo? At pwede mo ba i-share sino sila?
So in the States, I've been fortunate to have you know, collectors and corporate collectors such as Virgin and Richard Branson and some celebrities there like Nick Jonas and Priyanka and some sort of influencers like, I don't know if you know, the Charlie D'Amelio and
Yes.
And so they're collectors of my work and appeared on a couple Bravo TV shows with my work. So, and then here, I started meeting a lot of friends and collaborating with a lot of people, and was starting to get commissions from some of your local celebrities here, such as Billy and Colleen, who was actually my first, and then Violo Pasquale, Yasi, and Isa has this amazing balloon sculpture upstairs, the garden, and Isa Casado with her dog,
So, okay. So, you started 35 years ago.
10 years ago.
10 years ago.
Yeah, when I
That was just 10 years ago.
Yes.
That was just 10 years ago.
Yeah, so it's
What a ride.
Yeah.
I know. I sometimes have to pinch myself because I'm too busy. But like what happens in the public art world is when you win a competition, you have to build it in that same year, and so that's why I've been building. I have so much work in the last 10 years is because it's not like when you work with a developer, it might take 2 or 3 years or whatever. In the public art world, you have to build it within the same year. So that's why I have like lots of projects under construction, which has just been fortunate to then be able to share my process here with the Philippines. I've been trying to share with cities and developers how you incorporate art within master developments.
And also, Jeffrey, it's just so amazing, like how I can't grasp my head how you did this. Like, what's your process? Is it okay to walk us through? Kasi ang laki din, di ba, yung the Victor, sobrang laki niya. Like, how do you do that with the metal?
So I'm essentially a design build contractor. It's like, when I build a house or a building, I'm designing it and building it. And when you get to a certain scale, I'm essentially building a building. And so a lot of my work right now has to go through engineering. And that's the biggest thing, is that the engineering process to make sure that these sculptures will sustain for a lifetime. That when a certain category typhoon comes, when an earthquake comes, when the ocean water, the salt water affects these materials. So, these icons like the Eiffel Tower and essentially have been there, for centuries. And so I have to, if I'm going to be on that same level, I have to also be with that same process. And so we make them at almost one-to-one scale, fabricated in Asia, in China, as well as in New York. And we literally cut them up in 40-foot pieces. And the reason for 40-foot is because the size of a shipping container. And then we ship it all the way here, reassemble it, and then kind of like a series of Legos. Yeah.
And how did the big conglomerates here in the Philippines approach you?
So I was essentially winning competitions in the U.S., was written up in the New York Times and other publications there. And a gentleman named Charlie Ruffino, who owns the Net Group, or the Neo, he owns the building where Manila House is, and approached me to design that building with as a landscape architect at the time.
Oh, ikaw nag-design nun.
So the little green,
Yeah.
so the little secret is, if anyone had like a trivia, that's my first sculpture ever here. It's actually that little green wall in front of the, when you go down to Manila House, in
Yeah.
front, that little green wall with the tiles and all that.
Oh my gosh, I thought it was like a Picasso work.
That's my actually first piece
Right.
ever here in the Philippines. That's like
In the Philippines?
Yes, yes.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
And then it was that family, the Rufino family, that then introduced me to the C's. And I was like, who are they?
Hindi mo alam na sila. Okay.
And I was like,
Sila yung top 5 na pinakamayaman. Oo.
and then I was like, wow, it's amazing, like what they're doing. And I think, they really wanted to get into more art and culture, and I was really, able to kind of create my first series of sculptures in SM Aura, which were the tarsier, the carabao, the rooster, those animal sculptures that you see at SM, and then to go ahead and to create a series of sculptures over at Mega Mall, which everyone knows now is that giant time sculpture where
Oh yeah.
everybody's
And then we do have it in Pasay.
yes, the
And
Time
then-
Man, and then the one over on close to Moa for Double Dragon, where I did the 2 sculptures that were called Bayani and Pag-asa, which means hero, obviously hero and hope. And so that was dedicated to. So the time, I'll go back. Where the time, the reason for the time is that's part of my signature series, which I'll explain in a second. But the idea of the value of time, and I really wanted this sculpture to face EDSA and to remind people when they're in traffic the value of time.
Yeah.
And Filipino
Ouch.
time.
And that hurts, man. It's out of our hands.
I know.
Yeah, but you're an urban planner. Baka pwede mong ayusin yung baha dito. Tsaka yung traffic. Di ba? Baka makakatulong ka rin.
Yes.
Will we see more
maybe we'll
of you?
have flying cars one day, right?
So bigla mo na lang naisip mag-scout.
Yeah, so I'm hands-on, and then the other thing that I wanted to explain is Biyani and Pag-asa is really the sculpture. You see there's a headphone in it and this idea of the globe that's on it, because the other globe is at the end of MOA, right, the globe. So they have globe heads to kind of represent of this global, being global, and the idea is that it's representation of the hardworking call center BPO workers that are in that area.
Aw,
To
that's
honor them.
sweet. That's so sweet.
So it's a sculpture for them. And then the Victor,
The Victor.
which everybody knows,
It's bigger than Statue of
it's essentially
Liberty.
bigger than Statue of Liberty. So it's the Victor is a name, but for me it's really the global Filipino. The idea that that there's always a light for when people go abroad to come back home, and it's to honor those hardworking Filipinos that are doing global accomplishments and on still sort of honoring their Filipino pride. you
So
know?
that's why you're gonna unveil it.
Independence
Hopefully.
Day.
Yes.
On the Independence.
Yes, that's been under construction for a couple of years because of COVID, as
Beautiful.
you know. But I think that